Hey everyone, welcome to a special bonus episode of Crime Family. So this is our update episode, so we're going to share with you any updates we have about some of the cases that we've covered and let you know the latest goings on with some of these cases from the past. So we're just going to get right into it. And the first case, there's actually an update on the very first case that we ever covered on the podcast.
So the very first one, season 1, episode 1, was Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. And just to give you a little bit of background so you remember this case, it was like the doomsday couple that kind of had these beliefs about doomsday was coming and that people were turning into zombies and they had to kill their kids because they thought they had turned into zombies. And there was a string of murders in the family. Chad Daybell's wife had turned up dead. 2 of Lori Vallow's husbands ended up dying, and so that was kind of it's like a whole family kind of involved in this case here.
So yeah, there's not a whole lot of an update to this case. It's just last month news came out that their case, they would be going to trial not until January 9th of 2023. This is because Lori Vallow is currently in a mental institution where she's been held since she's been arrested for the murders of her 2 children and her husband's. And the reason why she's still there is because every time, like, there'd be 6 months intervals where she'd be, where they would keep her and then they reevaluate her, and turns out that she's not fit to stand trial, so they keep her longer. So this is why the trial has not yet begun and why it's taking so long for it to begin, because they're waiting on to see if she is fit to stand trial whenever that will be. So hopefully it'll be in January of 2023. And that's all I have on that case.
Well, it's kind of crazy. It's like, if she's not yet deemed fit to stand trial now, what's going to change in the next year?
Yeah, is that typical that they wait until somebody is deemed like mentally capable to stand trial? Because usually, like in a lot of cases, it's just like, well, they're not capable to stand trial, so that's the end of it. But they're like waiting on her, so maybe it just seems like, yeah, it's temporary and she'll come out of it, I guess.
Well, they want to try them together, so I think that's why they're waiting. But at this point, I feel like just scrap the like trying them together and just try him first, and then when she's fit to stand trial, if she ever is, then do her. I feel like just all this waiting is just like it's been already a few years, and like I feel like a couple more years people might not remember the case, people might not, like, their families just want to get it over with and move on with their lives. But
well, there must be some advantage to doing it together, and I feel that it might just because it's almost like the exact same case for both of them, so it'll probably just save them money and time to do them both together, because they're going to say the same thing for both of them basically.
COVID might be involved too, so maybe they're waiting to see like how this pandemic pans out, but as of right now it's not going too well, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah, so yeah, still another year away pretty much, so still wait. But we'll definitely be following that trial when it's happening in a year's time, or hopefully it could be longer if they postpone it again. But yeah, so that's the update we have for that one. So the next update we have is actually for the Turpin family case.
So the Turpin case was season 1, episode 4, and it was the Turpin House of Horrors. So what happened in this case was the parents were severely abusing all of their kids. They were withholding food. There was evidence that they were chained up to their beds as punishment. And it came out that when finally one of them did escape and call the police, she was actually like in her teens. But everyone listening to that call thought she was only 6 years old. That's kind of how innocent and like just not experienced she was with the world. Like, she didn't even know really what police were. She didn't know what medication was, like that kind of thing. And so and the house was it was filthy. It was not fit for anyone to live in, especially all these kids. And eventually the parents did get caught and put in jail, but the story for the kids is still ongoing, sadly.
Yeah. So the update we have for this one. So actually, not too long ago. So in November, there was ABC did a special about this case, and actually Diane Sawyer interviewed two of the children from the house. One was Jordan. She was the one who actually made the 911 call, and they actually play like the 911 call in full length. We played a part of it on that episode, but you get the full thing on the show, and they also show you like. Police body cam footage of like when they're talking to Jordan on the street, actually in the moment when she asks them what medication is. She doesn't know what medication is, what injuries are, like all these simple words. So, and then they show the police when they actually knock on the door, and then Louise and David come to the door and obviously seem very sketched out, and then when they go into the house and stuff. So it shows all of that, which was pretty interesting. And they also interviewed Jennifer, who was, I believe, the oldest child. So she was 29 at the time that they were rescued from the home. And so she's now 33, I believe, or she's in her early 30s now. So they do interview her as well. And it's just a really, really interesting, special, because you never have really heard from the children themselves. So this is like kind of the first time that you actually do. And some of the updates are pretty horrendous about the kids themselves. So obviously they were put into foster care. Obviously the underage ones were put into foster care, and they were basically just bounced around from home to home. There's allegations that they were treated terribly in these foster homes. And some of them are even almost homeless. So some of the older ones, someone describes them as they're like homeless or couch surfing. And I believe it was Jordan who in her interview says that she was basically released from, the care of the state, but she was released with like no life skills, no money, no any way to really like sort of take care of herself. So she's struggling in that way as well. So it's really sad when you hear about the current state of things, and you were like hoping that once they got out of the hands of their terrible parents, that maybe things would look up a little bit, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. Obviously they're in a much better place than they were in that home, but they still have so many struggles that they're dealing with. And also there's reports that there was a huge amount of money, I believe it was like $600,000 or something, that was fundraised for the children after the news became big and everyone knew about the case. And so all this money that was fundraised, and apparently the kids don't have any access to it. None of it has been given to them directly. I don't really know who's like in control of the funds, but basically they haven't gotten really any of that money. So it's just a really, really sad story. So we're going to put a link to that special in the show notes because it's really fascinating. If you were interested in that case, and we actually got like quite a bump in listens for that episode after this special aired. That's how I knew there was something happened. I always tell if I go to our stats and we see there's like, a bunch of random downloads for an old episode, I'm like, okay, there's an update or something came out about this case. So that's how I kind of knew. But yes, so we're going to put a link to that because it's really, really sad.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's sad how, these kids are in foster care and in the system, but then as soon as they become of age or become an adult, it's like they're shooed out into the street and they really have nothing. It's like nobody cares about them as soon as they turn 18. It's kind of how it feels like, and it's really sad that that's a thing and that it happens. But yeah,
and it's really sad too. Like in the special, they actually, Diane Sawyer, she shows them like pictures that they had at like Disneyland and stuff, or like the video when I guess it was when David and Louise like renewed their vows in Vegas or something. That was part of the story. So there's like video of that wedding with the kids there and dancing, and it makes the kids really, really emotional. And it's really sad to hear like what they're thinking about when they rewatch this footage back. So yeah, it's really sad. So the next one we have actually is recent developments in the Barry and Honey Sherman case.
So the Barry and Honey Sherman case was season 1, episode 10, and this was the case of a wealthy elderly couple that lived in the Toronto area in Canada. And so their story was Barry was a very successful pharmaceutical developer, businessman, and they were found dead in their home in a kind of a really mysterious way. There was, if you remember, the statues that were in their house, and they were kind of posed to look just like this statue that somebody had made for them. So that was like super eerie. There was speculation that could have been a murder-suicide, but just like the way the deaths were, it kind of seemed like that wasn't possible. And we kind of had talked about maybe it was like financial things going on. So maybe somebody in their family had motive to kill them for financial reasons. Like he had cut people out of deals and things that should have gotten a lot of money. So a lot of people could have been mad at him. And just because they were wealthy, they could have been a target of anybody. And we talked about maybe somebody like hid in their house, wait until they came home and killed them. But there was really no evidence out there to suggest like who had done it and why they were killed, like from the police, really. So yeah, it was like a really mysterious one.
Yeah, so still obviously an unsolved case, but back in December, so it was actually around, I believe it was on the 4th anniversary. So they were, the theory is, the police believe that they were killed on December 13th, the night of December 13th, 2017, and their bodies weren't found until December 15th of 2017. So actually on the 13th or the 14th is when they released this update, so around the anniversary, and they actually released some surveillance footage of this person that was walking on the sidewalk in the area near the Sherman home. And I mean, the video itself, I mean, it's kind of laughable because it's so like generic, and it's like their description of this person is so basic. It's like they don't know anything about him. They're wearing, or they actually don't even know if it's a male or female. They're wearing a coat because it's obviously winter, and there's just very few features in it. So like their description is so basic, it could fit the profile of literally millions of people. But they basically said that they're releasing it. They knew of this surveillance footage earlier, but he's kind of cryptic in this press conference that they hold. He says that they believed that the cost of releasing this information early on would have been detrimental versus releasing it now. So that's why they're releasing it on the 4th anniversary. They're basically pleading to the person in this video to come forward to clear their name if it's totally innocent. They said that obviously there was a lot of people walking, like they combed through all the surveillance footage from all the surrounding homes in the neighborhood, and they were basically able to rule out every single person that was captured at any time on any of this footage except this one person. And they described that this person is actually a suspect. It's not just a person of interest, which is interesting. So it makes you think that they do have something else to make them as a suspect, not just a person of interest. And so the police sergeant who's doing this press conference, he says that they have like multiple surveillance footage where they see, or this person is kind of in a very specific area near the Sherman home for a long time. And basically, from, like I said, he's cryptic. So what I'm basically able to glean from it is that they can kind of see this person like walking into the view of one camera and then walking into view from another camera, like a long time apart. And the space between those two points on the camera is the Sherman home. So that's the thing that's not on there. So they have reason to believe that this person was like in the direct vicinity of the Sherman home, he wouldn't say whether they were like inside the home or like on the property itself, but very close to the home and again, he also wouldn't say like the amount of time. He wouldn't say if it was like half an hour or an hour or whatever. And every question that the press would ask, he would basically just say like, we can't tell you that, we can't tell you this. So all they released was this surveillance footage and this still image of a person walking on the sidewalk. He has like somewhat of a limp, or he walks in kind of a unique sort of way, so they're hoping that can distinguish. But other than that, there's literally nothing else. It's a person wearing a coat, and I'm pretty sure I've said he all this time. Like I said, I don't know if it's male or female. They're wearing a coat and walking on the sidewalk. So it's very little to go on. But the fact that they've listed this person as a suspect and not just a person of interest is interesting. So maybe they're closer to resolving this case. I hope so anyway.
So it seems like the police know who this person is, and if they know who it is, they don't.
They don't.
Oh, so that's why they released the footage. I was like, why would they release it if they knew? So they released this footage that really doesn't help at all. So
yeah, they say they release this footage because they're trying to encourage this person. He says in the press conference, is if this is you, come forward so that you can like clear your name, basically. But I mean, it's like a random sidewalk 4 years ago that someone's walking. Like, do you really think they're going to remember? But I mean, maybe you would. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe
I guess but like that, the time between the two cameras makes me think like, well, what were they doing that whole time? Like, how long was it? A couple hours? Like, obviously, what are they standing there? No, they obviously were doing something with that time. So that definitely seems like they were in that house.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, this police sergeant wouldn't say the amount of time that in between those two camera, like being captured on those two cameras. So literally, we have nothing to go on. They know more, obviously, than they're saying, but obviously it was a significant amount of time. But again, they wouldn't say if they were captured on the property itself, or like, but even if you're in like front of the property for like a long time, that's still sketchy. So, I mean, they were in the vicinity directly surrounding the house or by the house for like a significant period of time. So obviously it is sketchy. And like a lot of the press that were there were asking follow-up questions. Like people said, oh, well, there's like, you know, that surveillance footage from across the street that was able to capture like the driveway. And they're like, was this person on any of that footage? And again, they wouldn't say anything. But this is like the still frame that, or the surveillance piece, it's like 10 seconds long. That's the part that they chose to release because they said we have other images or video with this same person on it, but they didn't release those ones, just this one piece. So I don't know. They're keeping everything very close to the vest still. But yeah, and he seemed really defensive in the because a lot of them were asking like, it's been 4 years and you're just releasing this after 4 years, like that's all you've been doing. But he basically was saying like, we've combed through every inch of surveillance footage, all the cell phone records. He said that there was 900 lines of investigative actions that they were taking throughout the course of the investigation, and the cell phone data was one of those 900 lines. So he just said that to give them like a context of how much information there was that they had to comb through. So basically saying this is why it's been 4 years in the making. But yeah, it
doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess it's better than nothing, and it's better than what we had when we first did the case. So at least things are slowly happening, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like, do they really think this person's going to come forward? Please say turn yourself in if this is you. Like, if it's a person who's actually involved, they're not gonna. But maybe they're thinking if it's innocent.
But like you said, they were calling them a suspect. So if they've already done that, why would they be like, oh, you know, just come forward to talk to us? Yeah, right.
Well, I know that's true. But they were also saying, I guess maybe they were like, the reason that he was considered a suspect was because he was the only one they couldn't rule out. So they're basically saying, well, like, turn yourself in so we can rule you out, and then you're not a suspect. But then he goes on to say, well, they were in they were in like area for a significant amount of time. So doesn't sound like someone's going to come and turn themselves in or be jumping at the chance.
They could have a good explanation, though. I mean, and if they did come forward and just tell them, I guess then the police wouldn't have to go down that road anymore. But they could have an explanation for something. So I don't know.
Yeah, and they say like, it's like we can't really tell much from this footage, but the person is between 5'9" and 3/4 and 5'11" and a half or something like that. It's like really specific that they were able to like narrow that down. Again, that doesn't narrow anything down, but yeah.
Are they gonna go look for this guy? Like, I mean, he's not gonna turn himself in, but like if they think he's a suspect, are they gonna like go look?
Well, they don't know who he is. It could be anybody.
They don't know who he is, yeah. And like obviously they said that like they have more footage than they've released. This is only just what they've released. They don't know who this person. They can't tell any. They obviously don't know. They can't see the face of the person.
Oh, they can't see the face.
No.
Okay.
Look, if you look at the footage or the picture, it's nothing. It's like a person walking with a heavy coat on, with a hat or hood, with like somewhat of a unique sort of walk, but nothing like distinguishable really. But also, do you think this person with a limp is going to be able to kill these two people? Like, it was probably more than one person involved, is what I'm thinking. So even if this guy was sort of involved, it's like not.
Yeah, well, maybe he was standing outside the house for hours, like keeping watch. That's all he was doing, just standing there. But we don't know, obviously. And I think maybe it could help the neighbors. Like, oh yeah, I saw this guy, or maybe the neighbors have like surveillance on their house that could like fill in the time or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like the neighbor on the side of their house could see them walking around or something. So maybe that's like just helping. Like, does anyone else recognize this guy from, you know, maybe their own footage or something? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But they also said that like like there were several people that were like captured in images, and this was the only one that they weren't able to rule out. So I guess if there was someone else involved, how are those other people not captured? Like, if there was other people captured, but this is the only one they haven't ruled out. Like, so they ruled out other people. So then it's like maybe there was just one person involved. This person, but this guy with a limp, or this person with a limp, is gonna like take out these two. I mean, they were older people. I don't know. It just, I guess it's not really a limp. Like maybe that's putting it weirdly, but a unique shuffle or a unique sort of walk. I guess I don't know.
Well, I mean, somebody with a limp can still use a gun. Like you don't have to be like a big, strong person.
But they were strangled.
Yeah, well, you could still point a gun at somebody and tell them to do things.
Yeah.
And I guess, and
yeah,
these, it was like an elderly couple, so I mean,
So-
it wouldn't take someone that much stronger and bigger than them to be able to overpower them.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, there's definitely. Also, we got a boost in our downloads for that episode when that came out as well. So, telltale sign. I'm just kidding. So yeah, that's that. So hopefully more comes of this, or maybe this person will turn themselves in, but I suspect not. If it's somebody who is already been labeled as a suspect and is kind of sketchy, I doubt they're gonna. But anyway, we'll put a link to like the news article, the press conference, and the surveillance footage in the show notes, so you can take a look for yourself. So that's that one. And then the last update we have is actually from one of our more recent episodes from this season.
So yeah, the next update is from season 2, episode 13, and this was the Botham Jean case. And what happened in this one, it was the off-duty police officer named Amber Guyger who mistakenly went into Botham's apartment, thinking it was her apartment because the layout of the apartment buildings were so similar. You know, she had just worked a long shift, she was tired, walked in and saw Botham in his own apartment, but she got scared, thought it was her apartment, and she shot him, and he ended up dying. So that's that case.
Yeah, so in that case, this update came out before the episode was released, but after we had recorded it. So we put a little piece in the show notes about this update, but if you didn't read the show notes, or you weren't aware of the update. So basically, I know we mentioned in that episode that Amber Guyger was in the process of appealing her conviction. She wanted a lesser charge because she said that it was a mistake and it should have been lowered to manslaughter or a lesser charge versus murder. And in November of 2021, they basically overturned, or they rejected her appeal, upheld her conviction. So her appeal was denied. I believe it was her second appeal. So basically she's still in denial, and she's saying that whatever, she's a horrible person. So you can listen to that episode if you want to know how horrible she was, but she was horrible. So yeah, she isn't taking accountability, and she's trying to get out earlier. She only has a 10-year sentence. She should be happy with that. But she's trying to get out after 2 years or something, which if she was granted her appeal, she would have been released, probably, because that charge would have been up to 2 years, and she's already been in jail for 2 years. So she would have probably been released. So thank God that didn't happen. But yeah, that's the update on that one.
Yeah, I was just going to say she only got 10 years, so I think not granting her an appeal was the right thing to do for sure, because she's not in there long enough as it is. So getting out even earlier would have been a crime on its own.
Crime upon crime. Yeah, so that's the update for that. So yeah, that's all the updates we have for you. Unfortunately, no updates on Adnan Syed. He's still in prison and he's wrongfully convicted. So #free Adnan. I just wanted to throw that in there. So hopefully we have an update for that one coming at some point. So yeah. So yeah, thanks for listening to this update. So our next episode that we're going to release in a couple of days is going to be our finale episode. It's going to be a 2-parter, and we will be discussing the Madeleine McCann case. So it's pretty high profile. We're going to talk about the case and our theories and all of that kind of stuff. So we hope you'll join us for the 2-parter finale dropping on Wednesday. So yeah, we'll see you then, and thanks for listening.
Bye.
Have a good day.